Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be watching a video called Things Better Said in Dutch. Sorry.
Do we need to mention gezellig? I feel like this has been on so many lists. It's like not even worth mentioning. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about things that are said best in Dutch. Now, when we first arrived back here in Australia and I had been speaking Dutch all the time, every day while we were in the Netherlands, I came back and it happened more often than once where I was saying something and went to say something in Dutch because it just described the situation or it described how I was feeling perfectly. But then I would remember that it was a Dutch word and not English, and
I know
the
what
person
you mean.
that I was speaking to would probably not understand what I was saying. So I've come across a few of these words and a few of these moments, and there are some things that are just better said in Dutch. So I wanted to share those with you guys, whether you're learning Dutch or whether you're a Dutch speaker and you haven't thought about these things before. I want to share with you some of my favorites, so let's get into the video. So the first one I probably use a lot, and I've definitely gone to say this more than once while I've been here in Australia, but it's the word spannend.
What on earth is that?
Spannend is like telling someone that you're excited to be nervous. And
Okay.
I know the feeling. I feel like we've all had a situation where you're looking forward to something and that feeling of being kind of excited but nervous at the same time.
If you're excited, why are you so nervous?
In English that describes this feeling or this moment, but spannend is something that I've gone to say more than once. The next word I want to talk about is borrel. Borrel is like having after work drinks, but you have snacks, but you can
like
also just
drinks?
do it with non-work people, so it doesn't necessarily
like
have
cocktail
to
hour?
mean after work drinks. So there's no real word for this in English, and it's kind of like having a barbecue, but it's not really a full-on meal. It's just snacks and drinks together with people that you like.
So what does a barbecue have to do with it?
This in English, you can use it as a noun, that is the thing that is happening. It's a borrel, or you use it as a verb, as in we gaan borrelen. So you can do it, but it's also a thing. There is no better way to say this. Dutch
I'm so confused.
Nailed it. They've got a word for this, and it's fun to do. Another thing I have gone to say in English a few times is lekker bezig.
What?
Lekker bezig is like telling someone they've been delicious busy. It makes no sense when you translate it into English.
No, it doesn't.
Also the fact that lekker doesn't always mean delicious. It has a variety of different meanings.
Okay.
It can describe weather, it can describe food, it can describe people, it can describe
Whatever.
that you've been busy, obviously. But lekker bezig is a thing that I've gone to tell people if I've seen that they've cleaned the whole kitchen or they've, done heaps of work, they've been really productive. Then you would say, oh, lekker bezig.
It has to do with productiveness.
I feel like it's like a compliment that you're telling someone that they've done a good job without saying good job, because that's like saying goed gedaan. So this is just better said in Dutch. I think
I think I know what she means.
And it just feels normal to say it. So yes, that is another thing that is just better said in the Dutch language. So the next thing that is said often in the Dutch language is uitwaaien.
What a weird word.
Uitwaaien is like going outside to get some fresh air and go for a walk.
Nature walk.
And it's windy and the fresh air kind of like revives you, like makes you energized. You feel better after it. You've cleared your head. It's like clearing your head to go outside, and it works. It's a great description for what happens. You go for a walk. It's windy. You feel good. You come home. You've had time to think. It just feels normal. It feels normal to say this in Dutch. We don't really have a word for that in English because it's probably not something that we really do. But yeah, this is another great one that I go to say in English all the time, but then I end up just saying this weird combination of like, let's get outside to get in the wind and clear our heads. Makes no sense. So
Well,
another thing that
it
I
could
am in the
make
habit
sense.
of saying in Dutch is eet smakelijk. This is similar to saying bon appetit in French, but we don't really have a word that you say before you begin eating in English. So I'm still in the habit of sitting
true,
down
actually.
and before a meal you say eet smakelijk. And when you translate this, it doesn't really work. I do sometimes almost go to say eat tasty.
Oh,
or
that's what
something
it
like
means?
that, but it just
Like
doesn't
literally?
make sense. So eet smakelijk is just better said in Dutch. I like the way that the word flows.
Yeah.
I like that it just feels normal now to say that before a meal. So eet smakelijk is a great word and it's just better said in Dutch.
Absolutely.
So the next word is, again, probably just a little bit of a weird word that we don't have in English, and this is jarig. Jarig
I like how it sounds.
is to describe the person whose birthday it is. So the birthday is verjaardag, but jarig is, yeah, I feel like I get this one confused. Hij is jarig, maar het is zijn verjaardag. Voel je jarig? It's a weird word. I like it though. I mean, it makes sense to say like, oh, do you feel birthday? See, that's weird. In English, it just doesn't translate. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a sentence that you would just say better in Dutch. It just makes sense.
But it's like the
So this
birthday
next one, I
person.
want to give a shout out to my schoonvader, Hendrik. He is notorious for saying this all the time, every day, sitting on the couch at the end of the day. It's that simple. It's
What
better
is
said in
that?
Dutch. We do not have a sound in English that means
It's like you're laughing.
I am satisfied. Like that was good. He also
Okay.
says a lot. So, it's gewoon typisch Hendrik. And these sounds exist in the Dutch language. If someone sits on the couch and they say that, you know that they've had a good meal or a good day, or
Okay, so
it's just like a
pleasant.
full stop. It's nice. It's nice to hear. It's like saying satisfaction in a sound.
Okay.
This one I have heard far too many times while I've been on hold on the telephone, but it is een ogenblik geduld alstublieft. So
What?
this is like saying just a wink of patience. I don't really know how to translate this one. It's like,
Oh, like
just
wait.
a quick look of patience, please. It doesn't make sense. It makes
No,
sense
but I
in
know- I think
Dutch,
I know what you mean.
100%. And it's kind of a polite way of saying like, just wait
Hold
a moment,
on.
please.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get to you as quickly as possible. So I don't really know if we have like a single sentence.
like, hold,
that says
please.
this. We
Something
probably
like that.
do, and I just can't think of it. But I like this sentence. I like that it's short. I like that it's
Short?
polite, and
It's long.
I don't really like the fact that I've heard it so many times being on the telephone. But
Yeah.
it's nicely said, and it's a great way to ask people to wait. So these were just a few of the words that I have come across since being back in Australia that I keep going to say and then having to stop myself thinking, that's another language, Casey, what are you doing? If you can think of any more words that don't translate into English, or moments that you've had where you've just thought, this is so perfectly said in Dutch, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear them. Also, another thing I wanted to ask you guys was, where in the Netherlands do you live? Tell me about your dialect. I did a video not too long ago about how to sound more Dutch. I've only learnt my Dutch in one part of the Netherlands. There are hundreds of dialects and accents and different parts of the language, and I'd love to make a better video explaining all the different dialects so that Dutch learners can hear the differences and hear how to put those different dialects into their own language to make themselves sound more Dutch. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to know where you're from and some different pronunciations that you guys have in your accent. If you liked this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you like watching videos about language learning and Dutch, then please remember to subscribe, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye.
Okay, so yeah, it was more. I like it was more about like phrases, not even just like words. It's more like phrases because I do think that don't really get you can't translate those like expressions in English, because I do think when it comes, it's more like feelings, because thinking about it when I was watching, I was thinking there's like when it comes to like objects and things, like tangible things, I think it's maybe easier to like translate things, because I think they're like universal things that I think everyone has, like table is just a silly example, but like table, a TV, like they're gonna be set, like those are words that can be translated in basically like every language. But when it comes to like feelings and expressions and sentiments, that is not something that you can easily translate across languages, because again, there are some things that just exist in that particular language. So if you translate like the literal thing, because some of them are like literal, it doesn't really make sense, because it's like, no, I can tell you like what it means, but you're not gonna understand. I have to like explain it to you so for you to understand, because I think those are things that are a lot of these like cultural expressions maybe that are particular to one country. They do really have to do a lot with culture and with how that society works and how the people are. And it's a thing about it. Like I think it's a lot about culture. So it makes sense that a lot of these things like cannot be translated, because it's like, I can't explain it to you, because it's like something that exists only in this culture. A lot of these things I've never really heard of before. It's like, well, I think I get what she means. It's like, yes, I know it can be hard to translate and to explain, because again, if it doesn't have like a translation, it's like, it's difficult if you don't speak the language to actually like convey the actual meaning. And if you haven't spent time in that country, or you don't really know the culture, it can be weird. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I think I know what you mean, but I don't know, like, why do they have a word for it? Like, even I can't even attempt to remember like the actual expressions, but the one that was like the drinks are a meal that you have after work. But she was like, it doesn't really have to be with co-workers. It can be maybe like at the end of the day, you go out to dinner. Maybe that's sort of like what it is, like after work drinks mixed with dinner. But it doesn't usually, it's dinner, like it doesn't have to be a dinner, like you can just like tapas or something that they have in Spain, something like that, I think. But it's like, well, yeah, but how come they have like a word for it? Because it's kind of like, I'm thinking, I'm like, well, but what do you have a word for it? It means that it's probably like very, like in the Netherlands and in Dutch culture, probably that is very important. So it is like, it's so important they even have a word for it. I think maybe that's like the point of a lot of these expressions. I think probably like that one was really funny, because again, it's like, how come you have that? I don't know, it's weird. That the other, also the one about waiting, it was like, it's funny because it doesn't sound, she was like, it's short, but it doesn't look short to me. But maybe when you're speaking, it's like the pronunciation, it's shorter. But it's really funny that she was like, it's easy. And I get it's maybe like, yeah, it's a polite way of saying like wait, but it tells me that maybe they do a lot of waiting in, like, when you have to be polite, like, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but it's just like how bureaucracy works. And he's like, I'm sorry having to do this, but just like hold please. So again, it's like a hold please, but maybe more, because hold please is already, I think, a polite expression, but maybe like here, because it's so important and people maybe have to do a lot of waiting like by the phone, that it's like we have like our own expression for this, and it's really funny. But I think my favorite one was definitely the one like he. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hey. No, I think it was he, I think. But I like it because it's so simple. It sounds like when people are laughing, when you're like typing and you say like ha, he, like it sounds like that. But it means something totally different here, and it's like, I like it. I get what she was saying. It's like when you're like maybe after a long day, but when you went outside, like you had like a really great day and you're tired, but it's great because you had a good time and you're tired, so you just like you lay down like in your bed and you're like, oh, he. It's like, what a pleasant feeling to be like tired or being full, or just I'm having a good time. I had a good time. But instead of saying like, oh, I had a good time, no, it's an expression, and I like it because it's not actual like words from I could understand. It doesn't have a meaning, an actual meaning, like the words H and E like together, they don't really mean anything. It's like an expression when you're like sighing or something, and you're just like, it's something like that. But they do have like their own expression for it, and I really love it. It's like, oh, I like it. And she said you can also use it like after a meal. You're like, oh, he, like I'm so full, and it was great. Like I had a great meal. So I like that. I would say that I would start to incorporate this, but you know, people, unless they're Dutch, they're not gonna know what you're talking about. But I like it. That was probably my favorite one. But yeah, that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.